Want to know the 3 levels of playing over a minor 2-5-1 progression? The first you can probably already do and sound great doing it. And when you go through level 2 and 3, you'll end up sounding like a super heavy hitting player who knows exactly what they're doing, because you will know what you're doing. Hi, I'm Luke from Become a Bassist, and if you've ever been confused by the minor 2-5-1, this video is going to simplify it for you so you can get through it, and if you already understand it, I'm going to show you how you can level up and master improvising over the minor 2-5-1. Let's do it. Welcome to Become a Bassist, where it's all about insanely practical, no BS bass lessons designed to get you playing better bass, having more fun, becoming the best bassist you can be, and today it's all about playing and improvising over the minor 2-5-1 progression. Now this is something that really stumped me when I got serious about improvising. I just couldn't figure out what to do with it, even though I technically knew the theory behind it. It just baffled me. My mistake though was trying to do the hard stuff, the level 3 stuff, before I took care of the basics, the level 1 stuff. Now, I don't want that for you, the headaches, the confusion, the wanting to catapult your bass across the room. So let's start at the beginning with level 1. Now we're going to be using a practice track for this video, and I definitely recommend downloading it, grabbing your bass, and actually trying this stuff out as we go through the video. You can get the practice track for free at the first link in the description. Before we get to that though, let's actually talk about a minor 2-5-1 and what it actually is. Now if you already know that, then go to this timestamp in the video. If not, hang around. A minor 2-5-1 sounds like this. That's our 2 chord, our 5 chord goes like this, and then our 1 chord like that. Now you probably would have heard this progression in songs like Sway, you know, that old school one. Don't know the words. Yeah. As far as the chords that are in it, you're almost always going to see something like this. The first chord in the sequence is a minor 7 flat 5 chord, also known as a half diminished chord. Our first chord there. Our next chord is always a dominant 7 chord, sometimes written as, dominant 7 flat 9, or sometimes, dominant 7 alt. The most important part though is that it's a dominant chord. In this case, we've got a dominant chord with a flat 9, and the final chord is usually some kind of minor 7 chord. In this case, it's an A minor 7th. And also notice that the root movement is all a 4th apart. So from B to E, so that B half diminished, from B to E, the root movement is a 4th. In fact, we can even just stay on the same fret and go to the next string. So from B to E, and same going from the E to the A. So the E7 to the A, we can just stay on the same fret and just move across the string. So why is this called a 2-5-1 progression? Well, these numbers come from the minor scale. In this example, we're in the key of A minor, which uses the notes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A again at the top. And if we number those notes 1 to 7, our second note is a B, so that's where our 2 chord comes from. 1, 2. Our 5 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is an E, so that's our 5 chord. And of course, our first note is an A, which is why we have our A minor 7 as our 1 chord. Now we'll talk a touch about more of these chords towards level 3, but that's the basics. If you ever see minor 7 flat 5 going to a dominant chord, possibly altered a 4th above, and then minor 7 chord, a 4th above that, then that's your minor 2-5-1 progression. Now we'll just be using the key of A minor in this video, but the formula is the same in any key at all. So right now, let's jump into how to play over these. The first level is stupidly simple, and you don't really need to know any of the kind of theory behind the progression to sound good doing this. So the first part of level 1 is to simply play the minor pentatonic of the home key, which just means the minor pentatonic of the last chord in the progression. So in this case, our last chord is an A minor 7, so we'll just play A minor pentatonic over the whole progression, and it's going to work really well. Check it out. 2, 3, 4. Just A minor pentatonic. Works really, really well. It's just going to work. Now try this yourself with the practice track. It's just A minor pentatonic over the whole thing. You don't need to think about, which chord's happening at which time or anything like that. Now does this method actually outline the chord changes? Not really, not at all. But that's okay, you don't necessarily need to do that all the time. You're basically ignoring the individual chords, but big picture, this mostly works pretty well. The other stupidly simple way of playing over this progression is to simply use the melody. You can basically never go wrong with playing the melody. So let's imagine we're playing Sway and use the melody over this progression. Check it out. 2, 3. Yeah? Once you know the melody, you can then mess with it and kind of make it your own. You could mess with the rhythm, the articulation. Let's do a bit of that now. Let's, make it less rigid. Yeah? It's all just materials taken straight from the melody, from the song itself, so there's basically no way you can hit a wrong note when you're doing this. Now, if you want to dive deeper into this method, then check out my video about zero scale improvising. I'll put a link in the description for you. So that's level 1, just using the minor pentatonic of the key or the melody. Now, neither will outline changes, but that doesn't mean you can't be super musical with it. All right, let's move on to level 2. This is where we'll get a bit more sophisticated, but still simple enough to kind of get started. Now, instead of using the minor pentatonic for the whole progression like we did for level 1, we're going to start using all the notes of the home key. So in this case, we'll use the notes of A minor, or the A Aeolian scale, this one right here. Yeah, and now again, we're still using a single sound over all the chords, and it's going to sound something like this. In there. Yeah? Now, the tricky part with this is that if you are thinking in terms of scales, it can be easy to fall into just, playing the scale up and down, like... Now, not that there's anything wrong with that, it's not a wrong thing to do, but it isn't the most musical thing to do. So if you find yourself doing that, then try your absolute best to think in terms of phrases or melodies that just happen to use the notes of that scale. So, try using some repetition or some sequences or some leaps around the scale rather than, just going step by step. And, using some space other than kind of machine gunning your way through up and down the scale. So let's try a bit of that. Let's think in terms of phrases and melodies. Let's see what we can do. Let's try some leaps. Yeah. Now that's not to say that you can't just go up and down the scale every once in a while, but thinking in terms of phrases and melodies is probably going to sound a lot better than kind of blindly going up and down some scales. Now, is this method outlining any chords? Not especially, although the chances of you doing this are a little bit higher than if you just use the minor pentatonic. But if you want to get really hardcore and sound super legit, then it's time to move on to the next level, level 3. This is where we'll start specifically trying to outline the chords individually. Now, it's a bit more advanced, but it will also make you sound like you know exactly what you're doing, because you will, yeah? Now, this is where we'll have specific scales that we'll play over each chord. Now, 2 of them are straightforward, and 1 is a bit trickier. Now, we're going to start talking about the intricacies of modes and chords here. So if you don't know the basics of that, then I definitely recommend checking out my Ultimate Guide to the Modes, and take special care to check out the video about the minor modes unlocked. Now, the easier chords to deal with are the 2 chord and the 1 chord. Now, the 2 chord is that B minor 7 flat 5, and of course the 1 chord is that A minor 7. Now, each of these chords comes from the A minor chord scale, so we can just assign the scales directly from this chord scale here. So B Locrian for the 2 chord, and then A Aeolian for the 1 chord. Now, if we play them very strictly with the sway track, it's going to sound like this. Just the 2 chord and the 1 chord. So we're going to have B Locrian, nothing there. A Aeolian there. So let's go again. Whole scale, and then A Aeolian. Yeah? Makes sense, right? B Locrian for the B half diminished, and A Aeolian for the A minor 7 chord. Like I said though, those are the easy ones. The tricky one that messed me up for the longest time was that 5 chord, the, altered dominant chord. It's an interesting one. If you look at the A minor chord scale, the 5 chord is a minor 7 chord. Now, if everything was part of the if everything was part of the chord scale, that 5 chord, it should actually be an E minor 7 and would use E Phrygian over it. But if you look at the actual chord progression, it's not a minor 7 chord, it's an E dominant 7 chord, usually with some kind of alteration like a flat 9 or a sharp 9. Sometimes it'll just say E7 alt. Yeah, so that means if you're using E Phrygian, you're not playing the G sharp that's in the chord. Yeah, and that's a super important note because that E7 chord needs that G sharp to resolve up to that A, yeah, to resolve up to the root of the key. It's a very important resolution, right? That means that if you want to play a scale over this, we need to get a little bit creative. Now, one option is to take the E Phrygian that you probably already know and simply add a G sharp to it. So we're going to go G sharp there. Yeah, so E, F, G, G sharp, A, B, C, D, E. Yeah. So if we played that with the other 2 scales in context, that's going to sound like this. 2, 3, B Locrian. Yeah, so B Locrian again. And that fancy Phrygian, and then the A Aeolian. Yeah? Now that's definitely an exercise, but if you had these scales in mind when you're improvising, you might end up with something a little bit like this. 2, 3, 4. G sharp. Yeah? So we're getting something a bit different here. Again, try and think in terms of phrases and melodies rather than just going up and down the scales. That's always going to be more musical, but see how we're nailing that change there? We're getting that chord tone, resolving that G sharp in the E7 chord up to the A in the A minor 7 chord. Now that's one option for dealing with the 5 chord. Another is to consider where the chord comes from and then use notes from there. Now you can actually think of the 5 chord as being from a couple of different places, but a common one is from the harmonic minor scale. Now that's the exact same as the Aeolian, but instead of having a G, it has a G sharp. That's the sound it gives you. It's the harmonic minor, so it's outlining the harmony, yeah? Now, if you start that scale on the E, almost like playing the 5th mode of the harmonic minor, you'll get this. Yeah, notice how it's really similar to the scale we used before. We're just dropping the G from it, and that works great as well. So let's try this first as an exercise. So Locrian. Yeah, 1 chord per scale, 1 scale per chord. Yeah? Let's try playing some phrases rather than doing this as an exercise, but use those notes. Let's give it a try. 2, 3, 4. So the B Locrian's our kind of starting point. So again, try and think in terms of phrases using these sounds. It's a very similar kind of result using this mode of the harmonic minor and using the last one, but because it's got 1 less note, it can be a little bit easier. Now, one good thing about using these scales and modes is that they naturally gravitate towards the most important chord tones, which means that when you're using them, you're usually outlining the changes. Now, if you wanted to as well, you can specifically target the notes of each chord, so like the third of every chord, the fifth, the seventh of every chord, and use the scales and modes as kind of connectors to get you to those chord tones. So that might sound something like this. Let's try targeting all the thirds. 3, 4. So thirds of every chord. So third of the B minor, third of the E7, third of the A minor. Let's try the fifth of every chord. Fifth, fifth, fifth. Let's try the seventh. That would be interesting. Seventh, seventh, seventh. Let's go again. Yeah? Again, that's going to be a super legit way of doing things as well. Now, you don't have to go all the way from level 1 to level 3 instantly. In fact, you don't even have to go past level 1 if you don't want to. But if you want to, you have the options now. Now, the best way to get familiar with all this stuff and really master that 251 is to practice it a lot. And to make things easy, I've put together a guide with everything you've seen in this lesson, like a handy PDF, all the diagrams, all the tabs, all the notation. I've even included a couple of different versions of the practice track so you can really nail this stuff at your own pace. Now, it is all free, and to get it, just click the link in the description or right here. Fill out the form on that page. I'll send it straight to your inbox so you can start mastering all of it today. I will see you in there.